Hi, this is Joe Clote with group publisher with Meet Magazines, and joining me today is Scott McKye, owner of KLEERTECH. And I would like to start with Scott, the obvious question of what's happening with our industry with regard to pre-post COVID, and then ultimately how that directly is impacting the registration, online registration, in-person registration part of the business with your company, and anything that you can see both on the horizon. But let's start with how has it impacted, and what have you seen, and how have you adapted to the most recent changes in the hospitality industry?
Well, Joe was started last year with one event after another, just completely closing down, and whatever they had that had been ordered and was ready to go to put it on the shelf till further notice. And there were some people, some stragglers that waited uh, for Las Vegas to make their minds up about shows that have been like after September of 2020. Um, and one by one, they all basically fell. So we ended up with a lot of inventory for people here that had, were typically very good planners and planned months in advance. Believe it or not, when Missouri went through some of its surges, let's call them, last October, ironically, was one. There still were events going on in this state, and some of them in the medical industry. And one of those actually had us as their service provider, and so I did go on site for registration, but that was absolutely the exception. It wasn't the rule, and whether or not anyone is surprised or not, that event of about 250 people with exhibitors went off without a hitch. Um, then it kind of seesawed back and forth, but never really, uh, any sort of orders coming in at all of any kind of consequence. And so mostly the PPP is what really has kept us from going completely under both the first and the second draw. That was kind of that was the hand of God, from my opinion. Um, so about, I wouldn't say any more than 2 weeks ago, it's been that
Wow.
close where people started reordering.
Okay.
And now, while it's nowhere close to what it was pre-pandemic, it is gradually getting more and more people are ordering now. But even in states like Texas, we've had where they place the order and then they've had to cancel the order.
Mm.
Missouri Association of Manufacturers, we're the sponsor for that. They're headquartered in Springfield, Missouri, and they were going to have an event here in September, and we're all aware of what happened in Springfield recently, and that was enough to shake their confidence, and so they closed that event down and now have moved it to February. Um, so, as an overall and a broad brush sort of approach, that's what's happened. And the latest surges, because of the Delta variant, have traumatized people to the point where some of them are pulling back again, but not everybody. And so we've gradually been able to bring people back.
Is with regard to those categories of the people that are still in it, are they corporation? Are they nonprofit? Do they fit a particular profile, if you will, that you can put a handle on?
Well, absolutely, the large events, anything that was in large would be defined as an event that's 5,000 people or more.
Okay.
Um, they're just pretty much vanished.
Okay.
Uh, Anything that's less than 5,000 people is pretty much fair game, still being coming in from all over the country. We have an office now in the DC area, and even in the DC area, while they're not anything but they're only small events that are being held. There's approximately about a 5,000 attendee that talks about they're going to still have that event, and I believe it's in September. But past that, if you're a large event, most of them are just not happening. In Chicago in July, they had the premium incentive show, the promotional products show, and where normally that one would have 15,000, there was all in, it was about 3,000 people. So they may have the event if it's large, and in the normally large venues like McCormick or in Vegas or down in Orlando and Orange County, but they're not getting all the attendance that they typically would get, even in the states like Florida and Texas.
Right, right. Scott, were there products and services that going through this, you guys, ramped up or brought out of, if you will, R&D and put into place that has helped get you through it as well? Or was it just the non-existence of the orders and the business that's out there in these large groups? Really nothing can be done until that came back. And as you said 2 weeks ago, started seeing some reordering. But was there a product or service that you guys even worked on that you feel, okay, going forward, regardless of what happens, it will be a product or service you continue?
Well, we on our technology side, because we do provide registration services as well as manufacture the kind of supplies that registration services would use, the lanyards, the badge holders, badges, ribbons, all that kind of thing. All of the supplies have been basically shut down.
Okay.
We attempted to do some of the virtual or the hybrid, but in most cases, somebody else who'd been doing it much longer than we have and could name other people that had used their products. That was mostly the barrier to that. And actually, we're okay with that no one actually gave us the opportunity to use the product that we used, that we built, because they weren't really very well attended.
Yeah.
They certainly have a purpose, but we have decided that the better thing to do, and we still have the product, is to offer those to record the events and then let people be able to access them, long into the future anytime they want, because they didn't actually were there. And in terms of like either the services or supplies, if I'm totally gut level with you, and I really like to be, okay,
Yes.
we've been hanging on by fingernails, okay, and we did have a few, which I would call commercial or industrial products, work ticket jackets. Like you go to Dobbs and they change the tires and they have a big thing like this. I mean, if you can actually see,
Yes.
this is a job jacket, okay? And so we've been making those for people. Here, even in Missouri, there's some large manufacturers that use those out in Eureka. And so that was a product, or point of purchase
Right.
packaging that we had a few customers left, but I know now that we should never have gotten rid of them.
Right. Right.
That's what we did. We told them all, we can't do your stuff and actually cater to the event industry like we really need to. So go find somebody else to make your stuff.
Right.
And that I should shoot myself for ever doing that, because now we've started to go back after them, and very gradually we're starting to pick them back up. But this time we won't. This time they won't, get turned out to the cold.
Yeah.
We'll keep them no matter what.
And I think a lot of us actually, when going through this, looked back in our archive, if you will, and saw maybe some things that could now help us get through this particular downturn, and in some ways, obviously, a sustained one, and an unpredictable one. So I think being creative, and I think one thing I know for certain, you guys have always had that ability in being creative and having a really good team that can pull these products together and service that customer base. The look forward, okay, with regard to the ribbons and badges and that, we're hearing from others in our industry that are saying everything from weddings down to the corporate events they'll still happen. They're just going to be smaller. So maybe that 5,000 and lower and smaller gathering is going to become a norm versus these massive ones that we've had around the country. And I'm sure even internationally, I don't know if you can speak to any of the international numbers at all of what and how they've been impacted as well. But I would think it mirrors what's happened in the U.S. certainly.
We aren't in the international arena like we used to be. I still have good friends, all over the place, and Canadian, lots of Canadian friends. You don't sometimes think of Canada as international, but it is. And they, as you know, they're just now starting to open up. I just saw that they are going to go with a vaccine passport. It won't be out for a little bit longer, but to get people to come in and out, just to access the country. Okay, that we have that, and those require some sort of credential holders, and we've made a few of those for people as well. The vaccine card, record card holders, and lanyards.
Oh, sure.
So I've been fully vaccinated and all this stuff.
Right.
So I don't know how far that'll go. There'll be a lot of people who want to use like Clear and I forget another name, but there was an IBM product as well that's going to be digital. The Canadians will be digital. That's all they're going to allow. So in terms of people traveling in and out of the country, but for the main, you're right. I mean, and that's actually not bad to have it be on the smaller meetings. There's infinitely more smaller meetings, okay? And the big meetings have lots of small meetings in most of the cases. So all they'll do is just have them and make them smaller, make them closer to more regional meetings. That's what St. Louis Convention and Visitors Bureau, because we're a partner to Explore St. Louis. That's what they're banking on, and they've done really well. They've continued to book hotels pretty close to what they were pre-pandemic, 70-80%. I'm not joking. Okay, it's like a couple weeks ago on the partners call that we were going over, and it couldn't believe how close they've gotten to reaching what they were at 2019 in some of the room nights. So that all bodes well for gatherings and people, like us, who are going to supply them. I don't know that the contactless stuff that they, was supposed to be the epitome, is really going to ever really take place at all these different events. I think the more ubiquitous stuff is just going to be as long as any providers, whether it's the venue or somebody like us, can make sure that they can bring your basic face masks with you, the disinfectants, so that they can say, look, we're at least doing this to make sure we're keeping all of our attendees and exhibitors out of harm's way. They'll do that, but actually having doctors there, I saw one conference, they strategically located it on an island off of the coast of California, and I think there was maybe 2, 3, maybe a little bit more than that, 100 people there, but they put it on the island. They had all these medical people there. They were taking tests to see if they were positive, testing positive. I want to say it was almost every hour there was some amount of people who were being tested to make sure. I mean, they really went to the extreme, and I'm not sure that was just to go as far as they possibly could go, to see what the envelope really would, or they wanted to be the epitome. and be the pace car for the rest, as it were, for
Right.
the industry or what. But the majority of them are not going to do that. Barbara Dunn is a lawyer in this industry in Chicago, and you know that they already shut the Chicago people shut us down from coming in and out of their state.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was talking about what kind of legal liabilities all the organizers have, as well as the attendees, and she was the one that really said, "Look, don't worry about going to the extreme on all this. Just make sure you got face masks for everybody that wants one." And I'm condensing what she said, obviously, but that's what she was saying. The lowest common denominator is what we all ought to be ready to provide for our attendees and exhibitors at any of these gatherings. And past that, don't really worry about it.
Yeah.
Uh, so
No, that's a great point. And I know Barbara, and she is a wonderful attorney and a great deal of expertise in
good,
our industry. So
good.
couldn't be a better person. Scott, what kind of second to last question here? What are you seeing on the logistics? So when you're talking to your clients and customers, are you telling them, hey, make sure you're ordering well in advance? Is it more so prior to the COVID situation, pre-COVID, where maybe a 6-week order time was okay, or 2-week? What has logistics? What's happened in that area of your business, and what you tell your customers?
Well, yes, we tell them, we whatever our lead times are right now, I think they're 15 to 20 working days for something that's custom, and even the stuff that should be on the shelf, because of the impact on logistics, we have to wait quite a while to get our supplies in here, our raw materials to convert into finished products. And the local distributors that we've used are bailing us out to an extent, but we only tell people that, as we'll have to tell you each time you order something, really what it is anymore.
Yeah.
You can't just have a blanket policy. And on the
Right.
flip side of that, poor organizers, when I say poor, I mean those who are impacted, not poor financially. They really are at the whim of whether or not their clientele are going to, if the attendees, if enough people show
Yeah.
interest and go to it.
Yeah.
So they really can only give us what they can give us. They can't, and they're not going to push them away.
Yeah.
That's they're not going to turn them away if they're going to have the courage
Yeah.
to go to the event. So we just have to play it by ear. I'll tell you, it's the toughest. It's the toughest time in my 35, nearly 36 years of doing this. There has never been a time that we have to oscillate back and forth with the kind of hectic, jerky sort of demand, and then lack of it, and demand, and people working unbelievable hours, mostly salary people, just to stay in business. I mean,
Yeah.
really, let alone, oh, by the way, we made your order on time and shipped it out the door in the process. But
Right.
I want to say one thing about this, about people, okay?
Sure.
I have never, ever in my life learned the lesson more that people are the most important thing that you can have, as I have now during this. When all of a sudden you have to let people go, and
Yeah.
they got to eat, and they got to go find another job, and they've been here for, there's an awful lot. The majority of people have been here from 15 and more years, some of them nearly 30. It's just, what do we do? It's not a question of whether or not they want to work. We can't even get to that point. If they want to work, but they're not talented, I have to say it. If they're not talented and trained enough, we're spread like paint. All the cross training in the world couldn't possibly have got us ready for this. So
Yeah.
it's a difficulty I never even imagined it was possible. So that's what I'd say about people. I thank God for the people again that we have here, and that have gradually said, "Hey, I want to come back."
Yeah.
We have someone that wants to come back, and she's driving all the way up from Scott City or something. That's how she lives, and she wants to come back here because she wants to work here more than where she's working someplace else. And wasn't a question of money. She just didn't like working there anymore, and that's really nice.
It is. Well, that's a testament to you, your organization, and the leaders that you guys have there, and all the way down to entry level personnel. So it's you become a family, and nothing tests your mettle other than something like this. So in wrapping up, Scott, how can any of the viewers, listeners, get a hold of you or somebody at your organization if they have further questions about products and services you guys offer, and just wanting to reach out to you? What's the best way to do that?
Well, they can come straight to me by email, scottam@kleertech.com, KLEERTECH.com.
Okay.
Scott M, or just call my mobile, 314-619-5554. Either one of those.
Okay.
And failing me being in jail or comatose, I'll get back.
Well, listen, hey, thank you for joining me on this. You're a wealth of knowledge, and having spent the 35 years in this industry, that you have a lot of knowledge about our industry. I'd like to revisit these and some other topics down the road, so I'm sure we'll be seeing you again soon. So thank you, listeners and viewers, to our program today. And we look forward to producing more of these to help you with your decisions and your future meetings and events. Thank you.